Okay, just a little bit about Unisaw replacement motors here. I've done tons of Unisaws through the years, some with three-phase motors, some with single-phase motors that are in great shape, some with motors that need some work, and some with no motors at all. So depending on the situation, when I do need to replace the motor, I usually go with Leeson's 2 horsepower single-phase motor that's meant for the Unisaw with the brackets already and the right shaft size and everything. They've been making this motor for a long time, made in the US still, and they offer it in several different horsepower models. I usually go with the 2 horsepower model because in my opinion that's sort of a good balance of price and power. The price shoots up rapidly after 2 horsepower, seems like to me, at least most places where you find this motor. If you shop around, you can find it for a pretty good deal. At first, man, you look around and the motor prices are really high, but look at some of the different suppliers and you'll be able to find something hopefully that's fairly reasonable. The only thing with these Leeson motors is that you got to figure out what to do with the cabinet opening. I've seen a bunch of butchered cabinets through the years where people put a replacement motor on and they just mess this opening up terribly, and that's always discouraging. A lot of people like this oval opening and want to keep it as close as possible to normal. So what I've found is with these Leeson 2 horsepower motors, the only thing that hits the cabinet is this conduit box here, junction box. And on some of the older ones it didn't hit at all because it was more shallow. But now they've extended this box a little bit more to create a little more space in there. And the problem is when this motor is elevated to full height for the blade, then it hits this opening on the back. So I've found that really you can get away with just a small removal of material using an angle grinder, and it really is not much that I've removed at all here. It's not a perfect oval anymore, but all I've removed is this right here. It's about 1 inch of material that I tried to angle as best as possible to match the oval. At the top I hit it pretty good. At the bottom I didn't hit my angle perfectly with the angle grinder, with the cutoff wheel. So you can tell a little bit. Some of the other ones I've done are a little bit better, and you really have to be looking close to realize that opening's been extended at all. So now it fully has full range of motion, both with angle and elevation, and that's all that had to be changed. So you don't need to butcher the cabinet, you don't need to turn it into a big rectangle. This is for the 2 horsepower model. I'm not sure with the 3 or 4 horsepower model that Leeson makes if you would also have to change this part of the opening down here, because I believe that the 3 and 4 horsepower models come out a little bit further because they're more horsepower, I think. So that's just something you have to do. And with wiring these motors, these are dual voltage motors, 120 or 240. I usually just stick with 240 because by the time you get to 2 horsepower, full load amps on this motor would be 22. And as far as electrical wiring in the wall, that means your normal 120 volt outlet won't work anyway, because the gauge wire and the plugs are not designed for that. They're only designed for 15 amps in most cases. So that means you're going to need to do a new outlet anyway with new wiring if you don't have anything already set up for 120 at that voltage. So might as well, at that amperage. So might as well just do 240. The wiring is going to be cheaper because you're pulling less amps, and it gives you more future capabilities down the road. It's only pulling 11 amps at 240, so the gauge wire doesn't have to be as thick, and it's just as easy and cheaper to create an outlet for that than to having to create a 120 volt outlet with more intense, thicker gauge wire. So that's just a little bit about replacement motors. I've been happy with these. Seems like the people who have bought these saws with them on them have been happy with them as well. So hope this helps.